Sorry.
My dear friends, firstly, I wish to welcome all of you attending the first Run-Archery webinar. And I also wish to thank for your interest. I am very glad that World Archery Europe has decided to give a new input to the development of Run-Archery among our member associations. We have been pushed by the grounding interest in this discipline, which is a challenging combination between the dynamism of running and the steadiness of archery. I believe that the precision and the physical training are the assets for run archery, and the reason which I will get a remarkable development in Europe as is wish. Before leaving you to this webinar, I must thank Dominic Coleman for his enthusiasm and great effort for run archery in Europe. So, enjoy this new discipline and the best of luck with this experience. Thanks. See you.
So thank you, Mr. President, for these words of welcome. And one more time, welcome to all of you. I just introduce the presenters of this webinar. So we will have China. So China is a continental judge. He has a long experience in target archery, sometimes as DOS on the international event. And last year he was acting as judge on the Run-Archery European Cup. David is organizer of the two last editions of the Run-Archery European Cup. He is also for a long time organizer of para-archery events in Novemesto, Natmetui. And David is in a club, sport club Novemesto, which is an athletic club, which is the good way to do run archery with athletics knowledge and archery knowledge. And myself, Dominique, I'm technical delegate on the European Cup and World Archery Europe liaison for run archery and sometimes on para archery events. So about the webinar we will propose to you. So the first one is today about the organization. And we hope that the dates we have chosen will permit some of you to organize the first run archery competition in their country in spring or this year. So we have started this serial of webinars, first with a presentation of the discipline, how to organize your first competition. And next webinar will be in 2 weeks about judging. And after that, we will have a third one, which is about training and coaching. So, but first time, before practicing or having coaching or training, first you need to have competition and to start in the club. That's why we do it in this order. And of course, we're happy to have so many registration for this webinar, and we already have 60 registration for the judges one, which is in 2 weeks. 96 registered person. I don't see him so much at this time on the screen, but as I told you, it is recorded, so they will have access to it. So maybe just be careful if you register or if someone of your federation register for some webinars to see in the spam box or junk box if the email with the link is not going there. Sometimes it can happen. So we had 36 countries registered, so you have the list, of course, mainly from Europe, but this webinar, thanks to World Archery Europe, is clearly open to all countries. And I would like to thank World Archery Africa, who has made a communication on it, even if this discipline, of course, is not in their strategic plan, because Africa has some priorities. but thank you to them to have make the information to all their member associations. How will be conduct this webinar? So it will be presented in several parts. If you have questions on several parts, we just ask you first to write your questions in the chat, and it is Bettina who will collect them. So after each part, we will answer your questions, but not during the presentation. First by chat, and if there is other new questions coming, you can raise the hand. You have the function at the upper side of your screen on Teams. And please, when you have some question related to some slides, just note the number of the slides. It will be much more easier to find it again, and for presenters, and maybe to have to put it again on the screen before answering your questions. So we are fully aware and informed about what you are speaking about. The agenda of the webinar: first, an introduction on the discipline, how to start Run-Archery in clubs, and 3 parts about competition, the setting up of the venue, official and volunteers, their role, functions, and about results, because it's quite different that we have the youth to do in other discipline of archery. And you can find some tools who are already since few months online on the World Archery Europe website. You go to rules, Run-Archery Cup, and you have some guidebooks, which can be a good complement to this webinar. Okay. Let's go for the introduction. About Run-Archery. So Run-Archery is not a new discipline, as we can consider that there were a first trial about Run-Archery at the same time as was created ski archery. So around 20 to 25 years ago. But for those who are judges, maybe they have seen that during this long period, Run-Archery title was just a title in the rule book with an empty page. So this is completed since 2 years ago. You have in the book 5, chapter 34, you have now the rules of Run-Archery. Thanks to some countries, 5 or 6 countries in Europe, who started to come again on this discipline. Run-Archery is a combination of running and archery, close to biathlon. The ranking and results come from running time. Each missed target causes additional distance, which are the penalty loops. So shooting distance is 18 meter. The spot to hit is 16 centimeters. Shooting position, depending of the race, is standing and 1 knee on the ground. And main format as for the races, as you have seen in the little video, sprint and individual 4K. So sprint can be individual, in mixed team, or in team of 3. So for the sprint individual, we start with running 400 meters. First shooting standing, so it is 6 arrows to hit 4 spots. In fact, it is 4 arrows plus 2 spares arrows, but you can go up to 6 arrows to hit the 4 targets. If you miss some targets, you have a penalty loop, which is 60 meters. You run again 400 meters, shooting with 1 knee on the ground. If there are mid spots, you have the penalty loop, and after you have 400 meters to go to the finish line. Sprint mixed relay, it's on the same principle. Teams are composed, mixed teams are composed by one woman, one man. So first we have the woman running 400 meters, shooting standing, penalty loops, if any. The man, so you have the handover zone to give the relay to the man who runs 400 meters, shooting 1 knee on the ground, penalty loop, if any, and finish. And for the sprint relay, in teams of 3, it is the same principle. People who compose the team are of the same sex, and you have the same principle with the 3 person with a handover after each penalty loops, if any. And the individual 4 kilometers is the longest race. So running 1 kilometer, shooting standing. After, so here you don't have spare arrows, so you have 4 arrows to shoot each time in 4 spots. If you miss, some spot, you have for each missed spot 1 penalty loop of 150 meters to run. Then one more time, 1 kilometer, shooting 1 knee on the ground, penalty loop, if any, 1 kilometer, shooting standing, penalty loop, if any, and then 1 kilometer to go to the finish line. About Run-Archery in Europe. So all this information comes from the questionnaire we have sent to member association in December. We had received 21 answers on the 50 member associations. Member association, we have already 8 involved in Run-Archery, 11 interested to start, and not interested for several reasons. Sometimes because of the lack of resources, or also because it is not in their strategic plan for the next years. 2. Number of official competition declared by the member association who are already involved in Run-Archery, it's around 35 competition a year. And it is 450 archers who practice in Europe, who practice occasionally or regularly Run-Archery. The questionnaire was also sent in Africa. So 16 member association on the 33 in Africa have answered. 14 countries are really interested by starting Run-Archery. So the interest for a member association to go to Run-Archery. Run-Archery is an opportunity to bring a new discipline to their members and to interest new members who are looking for a very dynamic discipline, which is not the case in a lot of disciplines of archery yet. This also corresponds to a new attraction of the public for the combined disciplines. We can consider, of course, ski archery as a combined discipline, which exists since 20 years ago. But for ski archery, you have to be good in archery and in skiing. Running is much more easier to start than skiing. Run-Archery can be a new approach for medias. Archery offers already a good dramatic show by the way finals are shown for TV on broadcasting. We keep the same advantage with the Run-Archery with adding a spectacular image with mass start, sprint, or finishes. You have like a dramatic part when you are shooting at the target, because each missed target has consequence on the time. So it's like for biathlon. I don't know if your country, but in France, biathlon is clearly popular and very, very often on TV. Some interest for school. The approach of archery through Run-Archery seems to interest some schools. For example, French Archery Federation proposed for for 1 month the Run-Archery Kids. It is simplified rules for kids under 15 years old. With simplified rules, so it's running shorter distance, 250 meters, shooting 12 meters, and penalty loop 35 meters, only shooting standing, and running only with the bow carried by hand. Some testimonials about Run-Archery. I just go back here because, sorry. Okay.
Run-Archery is the combination of speed and focus. And that's why Run-Archery is so interesting for archery and athletics. And that's why we in the Netherlands are very happy that World Archery Europe says Run-Archery is a priority. Because we want to compete with France, with Czech Republic and all other countries in Europe. We want to compete in the Netherlands, also here at the national headquarters of Team NL in Papendal, Arnhem. Run-Archery. It's focus, it's speed. It's a short distance and longer distance. And we in the Netherlands hope to meet you somewhere in Europe. Thank you.
tere, minu nimi on Jaanus Kross ja ma olen vibulaskmise treener Eestist. Esimest korda ma osalesin vibulaskejooksuvõistlustel aastal 2008. Sellest ajast peale olen ma regulaarselt võistlustel käinud, kogenud hulga kogemusi ja suhelnud eri riikide vastava ala treeneritega. Ja nii mõndagi on juba selle ala kohta rääkida. Miks vibulaskejooks? Vibulaskijooksus me saame kasutada väga erinevaid võimeid, oskusi ja taktikalisi tegevusi. Ja käies võistlustel, kus on kavas näiteks sprint, teatejooksud ja põhidistants, me saame korduvalt proovida leidmaks üles oma tugevad küljed, proovida erinevaid taktikalisi tegevusi. Ja pea kõik osalejad kogevad sellistel võistlustel mingis kohas edu ja sellega seoses ka häid emotsioone ja rõõmu. Vibulaskijooksus on siis kasutuses korraga märksa enam oskusi ja võimeid kui laskmises või jooksmises eraldi. Ja kuna me läbi selle saame kasutada selliseid kombineerituid harjutusi ja treeningmetoodikaid ja see teeb selle töö treeneritele ka väga huvitavaks. Ala ise on põnev, hoogne, pealtvaatajatele ka üsna huvitav ja vibulaskijooksu harjutusi näiteks vibulaskmistreeningutes kasutades me muudame ka seda palju mitmekülgsemaks ja huvitavamaks. Nii et tasub selle alaga lähemalt tutvuda. Aitäh kuulamast!
Bonjour, Guillaume Escotte, 37 ans, président du club des archers de Montigny-les-Cormeilles. Je pratique le Run-Archery depuis 4 ans. J'ai été deuxième du Run-Archery Tour la saison dernière, qui est la compétition principale sur le plan national, et deuxième de la Coupe d'Europe à Novemesto. J'aime le Run-Archery car cette discipline réunit mes deux passions, la course à pied et le tir à l'arc. On y retrouve les mêmes ingrédients qui font du biathlon un sport spectaculaire, du rythme, du mental, de l'enjeu jusqu'au dernier tir, de la compétition, du partage. Bref, faites du Run-Archery.
sorry, I was disconnected just at the right time after the presentation. So if you have some questions, so Bettina, are there some questions on the chat? No? Do some questions?
Just
Yeah.
at the very beginning, there was a question from Adam from Ireland.
Yeah.
If the slides will be emailed to the attendees.
Yes,
So
we can email them, but anyway, because it's recorded, so it will be in full free access. But we can, of course, do a PDF printing of the slides and to send to them. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, no question. So we can go ahead with the next presentation. So thank you. Oh, so we will discuss about the international competition after. But yes, there is a European Cup, and David is organizer this year. Second weekend, but we can speak about it at the end of the full webinar, no problem. And it is an open competition, not only for European countries. So David, if you can go ahead with the competition part, the setting up of the field, of the venue.
Yes, I can. Thank you. And would you, Dominic, would you manage the changing the slides for me, please? In this section. Oh, I can't hear you now.
Dominic, your mic is closed.
Yeah,
You're
I
on
couldn't
mute
hear
now.
you. Now I couldn't hear you last few sentences, Dominic.
Dominic, you are mute now. We cannot hear you.
Usually people don't complain when they don't hear me, so it's unusual. Thank you. Thank you so
Not now. Dominic.
Thank you so much. Yes. So
Dominic, would you please?
Yes. Yes. I'm just working on it. Okay. Yes.
So if I may start my.
So sorry, I just need a little time to.
Okay.
Choose the right one.
But I would like to use this occasion to express my surprise that so many people attend this webinar, because the number is amazing. So hello everyone who are connected, and it's an honor for me to present you this experience from hosting of two annuals of the European Cup in the Run-Archery. As was told, my name is David Snyder, and I come from a local sports club, originally track and field athletics sports club, but also with some wide experience in archery and especially in para archery. And I would like to thank Dominic for his initiation, not only for this webinar, but also in the beginning, also for the approaching of Run-Archery in our sports club, because we have the personal capacity and experience with the both athletics and archery, and one point. And the second point is that we also have a good area which allows us to prepare the circuits also for the 400 sprints, but also for 1 kilometer circuit, as you will see on next pictures. So would you please, Dominic, go to the first slide? The detailed information about the distances and parameters are in the World Archery rulebook. And as we speak about archery, the safety is a priority, of course. You can see on the overall picture that we have the safety wall behind the targets, and we will get to it closer later. Ideally, shooting range, penalty loops, and start and the finish areas are to be visible for the public, which is the case in Novemesto, where we use the track and field stadium with a stand for spectators, the tribunes. We located the shooting range in the second half of the circuit, both of course the sprints and of the distance race for 4 times by 1 kilometer. Now you can see the schema of the picture of the shooting range, which says that the shooting distance is for 18 meters. In case of Novemesto, we have available 10 targets or 10 buttresses for drop down targets, and racers who approach the shooting range, they approach the shooting range from the entrance, through the entrance, where there are maybe there might be racks for their arrows, and then they proceed to their spot from which they shoot the target. So we have 10 the shooting spots in Novemesto for these 2 annuals of the European Cup, and it was enough for so far. We will see how many will be needed, for example, for feather. And as for the safety wall behind the targets, we normally use the target archery buttresses covered with the safety net. And as you will see on the next pictures, it is quite needed, because when the racers come with a high heartbeat and breathing due to fast running, their ability to focus is diminished, of course. So this is a picture showing how important is the safety wall, because the drop down targets are on in the height of something a little bit over 1 meter, which is quite low. These buttresses are enough as a safety wall, and it's a safety enough even for runners who run their circuits and their races behind the safety wall. So this works. Dominic, shall we go back to some second slide, because I was jumping through. This is this is the 4th one, showing the spotters. Spotters are located 1 spotter per each target, recording the hit or miss, or we say in or out. It will be described later in the webinar clearly to racers who understand how many penalty loops are obliged to run. This is one of the shooting competition kneeling. In this case, racers, they have their arrows in the quivers on the racks individually in their shooting spots, as you can see. So they do not carry them during the competition. There also need to be said that the equipment says not compound bows are allowed in this competition, but it will be said later. Okay. The slide number 6 says about the safety wall. This is the area view on all the complex, the overall complex of the sports club in Novemesto, which is clearly visible. The track and field stadium, 400 meters track on the right side. On the football area, we designated 60-meter penalty loop, the blue one, and 150-meter penalty loop, the yellow one. The shooting range close to the Finnish straight. Then you see the start and finish line, which is as regular finish and start area for the track and field competitions. And the yellow circuit is a 1,000-meter circuit. The blue one is as evident 400 meters sprint. In Novemesto, it will be said here, where you can see some pictures from the competition. It is good to have a clearly arranged circuit in a flat terrain with some natural or maybe artificial hurdles for fast and smooth running. This is important to be aware of fast running. If someone of you has experience also for IAAF athletic competitions, when racers run the pace, let's say below 3 minutes per kilometer or even faster in case of sprint, there must not be any sharp curves, any sharp U-turns. The track needs to be large enough to enable racers to overtake each other, of course, without any breaking the pace and breaking the tempo of opponents. And IAAF rules for setting of cross-country competitions might help in this case. What might be another new aspect of this competition for archers is a call room and the area for the start. The call room is a very important place for the racers shortly before the start. There are being collected or distributed electronic chips in case of the electronic time measuring, and also start bibs before just entering the call room. And all participants must be present in call room at least 10 minutes before the start. This is important to have the smooth proceeding of starts, as in case of mass start, but especially in case of interval start, let's say by 30 seconds or by 60 seconds. So you can imagine that if there are any delays and missing racers, it is a complication of managing the competition. Call room officials, 1 or 2 officials, you can see them in this green jerseys. They check the chips and or bibs by start list, still in the call room, and then they proceed the racers to the start line. And the next slide should be okay. This is the scheme of the loops and handover zone. This scheme says clearly about the width of the area for of the track for running, which is a minimum 4 meters. In IAAF rules, I am not sure, but it says something about 6 meters maybe the width, and also the zone, the hand over zone for changing during the relays, which is 20 meters in case of run archery. Then after the shooting range, there is a maximum 20 meters to get the penalty loops, and the exit from penalty loops to the finish line or to the handover zone should be minimum 40 meters. So that there is no interference among racers. And measuring time, it is also something which is different from archery. We suggest a manual measuring time, which is preferable for the beginning on the local level in your clubs. But it is more demanding on the personnel, because then you have to have at least one official to check the exact time of start for each athlete. For each athlete, if it is in case of the interval start, and then in the finish, you need 1 or 2 officials to record the time of arrival, and then extra this, we need 1 or more officials to note and to record the bips for the ranking, because once this is omitted, then you cannot return it back, and it can accuse some stressy situation for the racers. In case of electronic measuring, it is much easier, but probably more expensive. When we use the electronic chips, and it is more professional, and it can help also for recording of penalty loops. And this is recommended for the national championships and of course the international level. Like, for example, we have the experience with it with the electronic measuring in Novemesto for the European Cups. So question and answers.
Questions and maybe answers. So, Bettina?
Yes, I have one question from Andy from Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Is the round length, so the 400 meters or the 1 kilometer from start to shooting, or is it the length for the whole round? That means from start to finish line.
This is from start to finish line. This is the whole length of the circuit.
Thank you.
I thank you.
No more questions in the chat.
One hand. I just go on it. Khaled. I just try
Yes,
to...
one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. My question is regarding one of the options you mentioned about being able to use the bips. Do you think that in future version of the events, the bips could be connected to Yanseo to run the event automatically with the bips and Yanseo to get the results? Thank you.
Result will be at the end of the competition part, third part. We will discuss about Yanseo and bips during the result part. So we will speak about it just after Khaled.
Yes, and thank you, Khaled, for the question. And we also will prepare the connection through Vareos system for this year edition of the European Cup, the Open Vareos, so that we will make also the process of registration more professional than in past. So it's getting connected with all the system.
Some other questions? Any question? No? So I stop sharing the screen and I let you the floor, Mr. China. Microphone.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's my part then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's Çınar from Turkey. We have met some of you in Europe, in somewhere, and hope to meet you, the others, in somewhere in world. So my part. So is it okay for everybody? Do you see the presentation? Did I manage it? Okay, I start.
It's okay. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, then I start then. So my part is about officials and volunteers in the Run-Archery events. Just to run the competition successfully in Run-Archery events, we need volunteers and who are working as officials in these events. Their names are derived from their duties and their working place, so that it is very easy for us to understand who will do what. We have we have officials in the start area, race officials in the shooting range, and spotters, as David said before, and race official in the penalty loop, and officials in the finish area. As I said before, their duties can easily be understood from their names. So let's explain them in the order which an athlete sees them in a Run-Archery competition. So, officials in the start areas, as David mentioned before, there is a cold room, which is not present in our other archery events, and this is the one of the differences between Run-Archery and the other styles of the archery. So the official, before starting the race, each athlete come to the cold room to collect chips. And here there is an official who distributes these chips and controls the start beeps of the athletes. After being controlled by the first official, the athletes proceed to the start line, and there should be another official and whose duty is to start the race by counting down if it is an interval start. But if it is a mass start, the official use pistol as a starter, and here we need one more official in the start line to check the pool is complete and takes care of the possible false starts. And if there is a false start, it will be restarted. So, shooting range official, the next official, an archer sees. Having run the first lap, I mean the first 40 meters or the first 1 kilometer, the official that an athlete sees is the shooting range official. This official should stand at the entrance of the shooting range, and he or she is responsible for regulating the placement of the athletes on the shooting line. Yeah, as you see in the picture, with the gray jersey, he is the shooting range official of Novemesto in the previous European Cup. He is responsible for, as I said before, regulating the placement of athletes on the shooting line. He does his duty by saying loudly the target number to the athlete is allowed to shoot. He has to be sure that the athlete understands and hears the target number correctly. Yeah, this is very important, my friends. So I want to say it again. He has to be sure that the athlete understands and hears the target number correctly. The most important thing that the shooting range official has to be careful is not to overload the target with arrows while others are almost empty. He should distribute the athletes in a wise way so as not to cause a target has more arrows than the others. This will ease the judge's duty in the case of a protest. So here the archers are not protesting, will not protest their points on the target phase. They are only protesting if their arrows are hit or miss. So it will be very hard for a judge to decide if there are lots of arrows in a target, but so the shooting range official has to divide the archers carefully. So the next officials are, the spotters. Having been announced by the target number by the shooting range official, an athlete moves to that target lane, and behind him there is a volunteer called spotter. These spotters must leave a free space to the athletes who are coming to shoot and continuing to run after shooting. So they have to stand a few meters behind them, because after somebody finishes their shooting and he has to run, so they don't cause any hindrance to the running archers. The main duty of the spotters, I think, it is the most important for a run-archery event. Yeah, this is the most important one, and it is the main duty of these spotters. Is to decide and say to athletes whether an arrow is in or out. Yes, while doing their duty, spotters must remain careful and focused to each arrow shot by the athlete on their targets. Even a moment of carelessness may cause an athlete to run an unnecessary penalty loop and therefore reduce the performance of the athletes. And so the athletes, it will make for him very hard for the rest of the race. One other responsibility of the spotters is to raise the drop targets by pulling the ropes. After the athlete on his or her target finishes shooting, the spotter has to pull the rope to raise the drop down targets. So again, while doing this, the spotter has to be careful to so as not to cause any hindrance to the running athletes. So yeah, spotters had better speak loudly so as to be heard and understood by the athletes. Because of the high tension, excitement, and fatigue, athletes may have problems in understanding what the spotters say. Here, you should be careful about defining the correct words for in and out. If you want to use terms in your own language, the word spellings must be different and they should be easy to understand. For example, we don't use hit or miss in English because a spotter's spelling may mislead an archer. That's why we decide to use in and out is better for English. So spotters must say how many penalty loops to be run to the athletes after they finish shooting. For each missed spot, an athlete has to run a penalty loop. An athlete has to run the number of penalty loops what it is being said to him or her, even if he or she disagrees with the decision. That's why spotters have to keep focused all the time. So the spotters are responsible for filling the statement sheets also, to which athletes beat number and target shooting style, I mean kneeling or standing, which is written, and the missed arrows and how many arrows are shot by the archer. have to be written in that shooting report. And the spotters have to fill these statement sheets. Next, the penalty loop officer. If an archer is called by the spotter that he missed a target, he or she has to run a penalty loop, which is 60 meters or 150 meter, and it depends on the name of the competition. If it is a sprint, archers has to run 60 meters, and if it is a 4 times 1 kilometer, archers has to run 150 kilometers as a penalty. Again, I say if they miss a spot. Yes, the penalty loop officials, after they finish shooting, athletes have to run penalty loops if they miss spots on their shooting, and called to do it by spotters. In the entrance of the penalty loop, we have one more volunteer, which is called penalty loop official. This official's duty is to count the number of penalty loops, yet only count the penalty loops completed by each of the athletes. He or she must not say or indicate an athlete the number of penalty loops completed or to be run. It is none of his or her business. Yes, the penalty loop official shouldn't say the number of the loops which is completed or which is to be run. So their duty is to record and fill this form. Penalty loop official must be concentrated and focused to the athletes entering to the penalty loop. He or she should look and write down the bib number of the athletes and the number of the penalty loops which was run by the athletes to the report sheets, which you are seeing on the screen now. Being aware of this and doing this job correctly is so important that even a mistake may cause an athlete to lose time at the end of the race. So they should be very careful by on filling these reports. At the end of the race, the judges check the correspondence of the loops number between the spotter statement sheets, which I showed you 2 or 3 slides before, and the race official sport sheet and this sheet. Yes, the judges check the correspondence of these 2 reports. If the athlete runs fewer loops than announced by the spotter, the judges will add a time penalty after the check. And if the athlete runs too many loops than announced by the spotter, he or she loses time himself. Statement sheets that are filled by spotters and report sheets that are filled by penalty loop officer are as important as the scorecards which we use in archery competitions. We call these 2 sheets as the scorecards of run archery because the total ranking, the total result will be obvious after these 2 reports are checked. Yeah. Next one. The officials in the finish areas. In the finish areas, we need an official to overlook if the finish area is enough when you use electronic timing. I mean, chips and carpets are used to measure time. So we need an official there to overlook if the finish area is enough. But when you use manual timing, for most of you, it will be very easy to use manual timing, but the ones who measure the times should be very careful. So when you use manual timing, you need at least 2 officials in the finish line. One of them should record the time on the stopwatch when the athletes pass the finish line. The others has the duty of writing down the ranking by the bits. Yeah. If you are using manual timing, you need at least 2. Yeah, the more is better. If it is a team or mixed team race, Yeah, we call it relay in Run-Archery. Yeah, we call relay for team events. So if it is a team or a mixed team race, a team member runs his or her circuit, shots his or her arrows, runs possible penalty loops, and comes to the handover zone. Yeah. About handover zone, David mentioned it before, but this zone should be at least 20 meters long and 8 meters wide. And in this zone, team members have to hand over. They change. Yeah, one of them finishes his or her circuit and hand over in that area. So there should also be one more official in this zone to control the area and to control this change. Yeah, as you see in the picture, in this zone, one of them is starts running, and the one who finished their shooting has to touch his or him or her, and then after this touching means the other athletes can run and can run his or her circuits. Suggestions to the organizers. Yeah, as you know, as Dominic said in the beginning of this presentation, in the beginning of this webinar. Yeah, this webinar is for introducing and for helping you to organize the Run-Archery events. Yeah, our suggestions to the organizers, to sum up, for the ones who want to organize a Run-Archery event in his or her club or region, we have some suggestions, and these are like a summary of the things that I talked about. Yeah, especially spotters. Yeah, maybe chosen from archers so that they know where to focus and where to look while the athletes are shooting, because they are also archers. So if you have a club, some of your archers want to attend the Run-Archery event, but if you have the ones who don't want to attend this race, so choose the spotters among them. So if possible, other volunteers are recommended to be chosen from athletics. Yes, I know it is very hard. Yes, but as David said, the setting up and the call room duties and starting and the finishing are from the IAAF. They are alike IAAF rules. So it is recommended to the other volunteers are recommended to be chosen from athletics, so that they are used to using stopwatch and controlling a group of athletes, etc. A volunteers being shy, careless, or not focused may result in some problems that I have mentioned before. For example, an athlete may not hear the spotters unless he or she speaks loudly enough. Therefore, the athlete will not run the required number of penalty loops. In this case, will cause him to get time penalty after the check at the end of the race. One more example. Suppose that the official at the entrance of the shooting range doesn't give importance to his or her job and overloads 2 or 3 targets with arrows. He or she, the shooting range official, sends the archers to the same targets, and in case of a protest, a judge goes to the target to decide if the arrow is hit or miss, and sees that there are a lot of arrows, and this causes him trouble to decide while deciding on it. So one more suggestion: have meetings for preparation and feedback. Yeah, try to teach the volunteers what they will do, what they are supposed to do. Yeah, and the meetings for feedback after each race could be wise. So in these meetings, the mistakes which were done by them and can be revised again, and for the next race you can give their duties and something like that. Yeah, as a result, we can say that the more the officials are successful, the easier for you to handle the competition. Yeah. Any questions or answers, guys?
So I've got a message where I was asked to tell you that IAAF is not the name any longer, but it's World Athletics. It's like FITA and World Archery. Just a little comment from one of our spectators.
I think this question goes to David because he is more experienced in this case, in this subject. David, do you want to answer it?
David is on mute. Your microphone
okay,
is
so
mute.
yeah. Now I'm on mute. Once again, the question, please. It was about wording of IAAF.
Yeah, it's just that it's not IAAF any longer, but it's World Athletics.
Yes, World Athletics. But when we use the abbreviation, the shortage is World Athletics and World Archery, so it would be confusing. So in formal, everyone knows IAAF. If we say VA or VA, it would be the same like World Archery. But you are right that it's now World Athletics.
The element which is important, if you can have the support of some athletics club to help you for the first competition you will organize, it will be really helpful to have this cooperation with athletics. We have it in Novemesto for the European Cup, even if David's club is very specifically natively an athletic clubs. It was very, very helpful to have some judges from athletics to help us for judging in the European Cup. Because for sure it is a part we don't know to manage it in other disciplines. So when you want to start, if you can have some support of athletics club, region or federation, it can be helpful to help you to manage the timing part, which is clearly the most important.
No more questions in the chat. No.
Okay. So we will go ahead with the results. So maybe an answer for our friend Khaled. Thank you, China.
You're welcome. I hope I can say it in an understandable way.
So China will go in more details with all of that in the judges webinar. So webinar for judges. Okay, about results. In Run-Archery, the base of the results here measured time. So it means from the start line to the finish line, including, of course, penalty loops. Some penalties for non-shot arrows, some penalties for wrong number of penalty loops, and some adjustment of time by judges. So it means that we calculate the final final time as a result and for the ranking. And of course, the one with the lower final time is the best archer or run archer of the competition. When we are speaking about penalties, you have all the list of penalties in the chapter 34. There is a long list, so you have some penalties for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and disqualification. Of course, we don't hope some disqualification for anyone, but it can happen. So penalties for non-shot arrows, for example, some arrows who are not shot and cause 2 minutes penalty. So China has spoke about the importance of the report sheets. So it means that at the end of the race, judges has to verify and to check what is written on the shooting report and penalty loops report. So for example, here we are in sprint. So sprint, as I told you quickly, you have to go to up to 6 arrows, 4 arrows and 2 spare arrows. And if you didn't shot the 6 and you didn't hit all the targets, it means that you had to shoot one more arrow. That means that for this you must have a penalty of 2 minutes. So that's why it's so important that the report made by the spotters is very, very accurate. And when Chinar was talking about the importance of the spotter duties, it's very clear that it can cause big damage in the timing of the competitor. On this example, you can see that the 6 arrow was shot in a sprint by 122, and the archers has run 2 penalty loops, but only one was asked by the spotter. In this case, it is the full responsibility of the archer to run the number. As Chinar told you, it is not up to someone as the official of the penalty loop to say how many they have to run or how many they have already run. So if we remark that there is one loop too much run, in this case, there is no adjustment of time. It is a mistake of the archers. So in the sprint, for example, for good runners, it is 15, 16 seconds, but it can change the ranking at the end. On this example, it is a case of a protest. So for the bib 132, the spotter have asked the archer to make 2 penalty loops. Archer can protest immediately when leaving the shooting line. He say no, for me it's 1. So it's up to the spotter and to the judge on the shooting range to note it on the report that there is a protest. And then when the race is finished, judges come to the targets and discuss and take a decision. So in this example, judges have estimated that the archers were right in the protest, so they have to deduct the time of the penalty loop who was done one more time too much. One time too much. So that is the importance of these reports. In this example, for semifinals, usually targets are assigned, are allocated to the archers. So we can compare the shooting position. If it was warned to the archer that he was not shooting in the right one, it is a case of disqualification. So one more time, as told by Chinar, these report sheets are very, very important as scorecards in other competition. How to present the results? So I don't know how it is on your screen. I just hope you are not following this webinar on the cell phone because it can be quite complicated. So that is a full result sheet. So result ranking with the measured time, all the shooting arrows, penalty loops done and asked by the spotters. If any, all the penalty time and adjustment of time by judges, and then the final time, which is the one which is considered for the ranking. The information on result sheet: ranking, name, bib number, ID number, age category, measured time at the end of the race, number of shot arrows, number of penalty loops announced by spotter, number of penalty loops made by the archer, penalties on non-shot arrows, it is a little mistake, penalties on penalty loops, time adjustment decided by judges. It can be a deduction or an addition, and then the final time for ranking. Going to what we call elimination rounds and finals, which is clearly different. It is not face-to-face as we used to have on archery disciplines, usually. So it's much more like in athletics. So for example, if you have a category with 11 to 20 participants, first for the elimination rounds, you have to constitute two groups. So group A, group B, and then you start as it is drawn, first, fourth, fifth, 8th, 9th, 12th, 3rd, 16th in group A. And you see it is like a snake. I don't know in English how we can say, Mr. Judge. How can we say the way to constitute the groups? So you just have to follow as such. It's the easiest way to do. And then you have group A and group B, which are the two groups for the eliminations. And then to go to the finals, in the case you are between 11 and 20, you start final A with the three best ranked from the elimination group A, the three best ranked in group B, and then the four best times in group A and B. And for the final B, you take the others from group A and B. And then the final ranking is first to 10th place, the finalist from the final A, and from 11th to 20th place, finalist group B. I just hope it was clear, but you will have the slides, so you can have some headache when studying it when you will have it. So the case of 20 to 30, and you find all this in the rule book, of course. So it is exactly the same, but on three groups. So final A, sorry, for you should have 10 participants. And then two best ranked eliminations from group A, two best ranked from the elimination group B, two best ranked from elimination groups B, and then the four best times, group A, B, C, and final B, the 10 next best times from group A, B, and C. And then final ranking, like for the example we had before. Then here is an example of next year European Cup with the two groups, just to understand that it can happen after the final A and final B, that in final B you have some final times who are better than in the final A, but it is the way to rank. So you rank first all people from final A, which are the best coming from the eliminations, and then the others from group B. So you don't consider the final time of everybody, but group by group to have the final ranking. Software to use, Mr. Khaled. So at this time, no specific software exists for Run-Archery results. Usually organizers use tabular software, Excel, Google Sheet. French Archery Federation has ordered a specific software to ENCO team, so it is in process to be developed. The objective is to get it in summer 2022 and to be used by everybody in World Archery family. So I had a discussion with Matteo Pisani, which is a member of Yanseo team, who is in charge of this development. Probably we will have a first trial in April in a competition in France. And of course, we will use, when organizer will use, for example, Open Warriors, it will be linked to use it, but you can also use it with manual entries for this. We are expecting to have the development to have the entry of all data we need, the timing when it is from electronic system directly coming from charts given by the company of timing, as we do in Novemesto right now, to include it automatically in Excel. And of course, manually, if you have the time measuring manually, as explained by David and Chinar in their presentation. And of course, all data is at this time coming from the report has to be included in it and entered in it from the spotter and the official reports. Questions on this part?
Yes, I have one question in the chat by Maya. Maya asks, how does it work in case of equipment failure? Or does equipment failure not exist?
So if you have seen on the draw, you have the spotter area and spare equipment. So if there is a failure, it can only be changed in the shooting range.
Okay, this was the only question. And we have another one from Andy's Drive I saw now. Which time systems are recommended?
Oh, the time system for the electronic one?
It's just yes.
So I know that in France there is some software you can use on PC just to click on it when you have people. So it I just to click just on the computer when you have people coming. So you have some software in France. I don't know in Czech Republic. So as I told you, and as it was recommended by China and David, the best is to be in touch with the athletics club who organize some little races with not so much money to pay electronic system, because the electronic system, I know in France it's very expensive to use chips. And maybe, of course, for the first competition, it is not necessary to go to the chips and to the electronic system. And yes, I just give. So CF Ezra is the end. Yes. I have opened the microphone, maybe. The question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I had the same question. Which electronic system I can use because I'm organizing on the 7th of May Run-Archery in the Netherlands in Goorlen. So, but the question was already answered. So that's I had the same question.
Yeah. Okay.
So the question is already answered.
Thank you.
In may I have a comment next, please?
Yes, yes, of course.
In our local club and in surrounding clubs, we use the electronic measure with chips that are integrated installed into the shoelaces, or they are installed already in the star bibs. When you buy the star bib already with the chip integrated into the piece of paper, and it's not that much expensive. It is calculated by number of start bips that are distributed. It depends on how large is the start platoon, start pool, how many racers are registered, and the cost of the electronic equipment, software, and the personnel for the European Cup was up to 2,000 euro in case of the Novemesto European Cups last year. So I think on certain level, it's good to have also the personnel skillful and experienced with managing the software, rather than have some hardships in making ranking and timing.
Okay, so Steven from Netherlands proposed some help on documents. So maybe when we will send the document, the PDF, we will send your email address, Steven. So if people want some help or information from Netherlands, so they can ask directly to you. Okay.
Then I would have a question by myself.
Yeah, really?
Yes, to David. David, can the 10 drop-down targets of Novemesto be borrowed by other clubs or by other countries if they want to make a competition?
This is yes, in case of Novemesto, definitely yes, but it's a question directed rather to Dominic, because we used the project how to construct the drop-down matrices and targets from the French Federation. So yeah, we are not allowed to distribute it further without any.
No, it was not about the plan. It was to borrow the targets themselves. But I will continue with a last presentation about how to start, and maybe it will be more clear about the equipment we can use to start Run-Archery. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And after we can discuss about equipments and material.
Okay.
So if you can close and put on mute microphone, so I will go to the last presentation of the days, and after, of course, we can discuss all points. So we have discussed about what is Run-Archery, about competition, and now, of course, everybody is very enthusiastic to start Run-Archery. Then I present you how to start the practice in your club and for your first, maybe your first competitions. We didn't spoke yet about archers equipment. Archers equipment, it's quite simple. Only compounds are forbidden. So except compound, you can use every other type of bow as defined in World Archery rules for indoor, outdoor, field, 3D disciplines. You can use them. I am speaking, to be clear, I'm speaking about the international rules, how it is in the World Archery rule book. I know that in Netherlands, it's not about equipment, but for example, distance of shooting, size of targets. I know that Netherlands, it's not, they have some other rules, and in Czech Republic at local level, they don't use exactly the same size for target and shooting distance. So I'm clearly speaking on the base of the World Archery rules. It's like for a lot of disciplines that after you can arrange it by your own national rules. So every type of bow can be used except compound. The bow equipment accessories are allowed as long as they do not extend more than 10 centimeters from the front sides of the bow and are the same as the equipment for a recurve bow for shooting outdoors. The back harness fastened on the bow is allowed, and is the only authorized accessoire exceeding 10 centimeters. About arrows. All kinds of arrows can be used. The arrowheads will depend on the material of the sport or target. In some countries, they use wood plates, so you cannot use the usual arrowheads. But my advice is, if you are in a development period, it is better to use materials for target that can allow the usual arrowhead of our archers. Why? Because a few number of people will buy some new arrows to go to try Run-Archery. If you want them to try, they have to use, to be able or to be allowed to use the usual material equipment they have. If you use target paper faces, you can use usual buttresses. We will see later that in the rules, even in the international rules, you can use paper target faces. So we were speaking about drop-down targets a long time during this webinar. Of course, it's much more spectacular, much more good for spectators, and maybe sometimes more stressful for archers, so it's good for competition. But when you want to start at a local level, to start your first competition, to see what happens, if people are coming, if you have many people coming, it is not necessary to put money in drop-down target. You can use paper target faces. We will come back on this point. During a competition, there is no scoring. All arrows stay in targets till the end of each race. It means in individual 4 kilometers, you have to shoot 3 times 4 arrows, and in sprint, you can shoot up to 6 arrows 2 times. So it means that for each race, you need to have 12 arrows minimum. The ways to carry the bow, you can carry it by hand in a back bow curer with a harness and athlete equipment. The permitted protection for the athlete are the same as for the other discipline of sword archery, chest guard, finger protection. Back cure is allowed as long as the arrows are protected when the athlete is running through the course. When running, the full equipment, when carried on the back, bow, harness, quiver, arrows, shall not exceed the width of the athlete's shoulder. Permitted clothing in competition, running shoes, spikes can be used if the surface allows or requires it. Running clothes with which are adjusted to the weather condition, including shorts and tank tops. Advertising is allowed within the limits prescribed by the general rules of World Archery, and in all competition zones, it is strictly forbidden to have a naked upper body. The clubs and facilities equipment for people who want to start to practice or to train for Run-Archery. Practice field. The Run-Archery is a discipline that is practiced outdoors. During the winter period, it is possible to perform exercise that allow you to work indoors to progress. Whatever the practice, target, course, the short shooting distance, 18 meters, allows all clubs to develop the practice of Run-Archery. About the targets, the use of paper target face will be enough. A spot of 16 centimeters made yourself is also a possibility. So, for example, that is an example from French Archery Federation, who has asked a professional printer to do some targets, and each club can order it at the federation. But you can also print circles on in colored paper with your printer at home, and to cut it and to glue it or paste it on paper bonds. And that can be your first target for Run-Archery for your first trial of competition. Of course, drop-down targets bring a plus in the practice of the activity. If the club can buy or build it will be a defined added value for the training of archers. But one more time, my suggestion for your first trial, and it was a lot of times the case in France when clubs started competition, is to start with paper target faces using your usual buttresses. It will not change, and probably China will explain you that it is much more easier for the spotter job to use paper target faces, because when you have the arrows shooting on the border or the of the drop-down target, it's very complicated to estimate if it was in or out if there is not a clear movement of the drop-down target. So probably to start and to educate spotter, it's much more easier to start with paper target faces. Practice session, so it will depend on the public. So clubs can be confronted with two types of future run archery practitioners. The confirmed archer, the club must be able to offer this archer shooting situation specific to the run archery, as well as the first approach to fast walking running, and in particular, the transition phase running shooting. The experienced runner who does not practice archery, it will be obviously be necessary that the club is able to teach him or her archery at first, core business of the club, and then guide him or for the specific practice of run archery in competition. If run archery is part of a development strategy to catch people coming from running, competition schedule is to propose archery initiation for runners before the race, and competition is to be open to these persons. That is the best way to do, and that we do in a lot of competition in France, because we are expecting to have people coming in archery clubs for run archery, but coming from running and not from archery. So if the competition is not open to these people, with the possibility for them to have a little initiation of archery before the competition, it will be very difficult to develop this kind of activity and to have more people in the club. Practicing and training. So I go fast on this point because Janus and Guillaume that you have seen. So Janus is probably online, and he was in the testimonials as Guillaume will handle the webinar on training and coaching. So if the club has a permanent field with targets at different distance, a space allowing the practice of running, even on short distance, the run archer will be able to find a way to work the running shooting sequence. Indoor, to work the race shooting link, no sport hall, the archer will be able to perform short races such as round trips behind the shooting line to raise heart and respiratory frequency. And of course, it will depend on the size of the room and sport hall you have at your disposal for the usual training. But in fact, because it is really short distance, I think that all clubs can have people who are interested in run archery in capacity to train and to have practice before going in competition. If it has been very long distance to shoot, of course, it depends on the field and facilities you have, but at short distance, every club can propose someone to shoot and to practice at 18 meters. Okay. Bettina, some question?
We have one comment. It's again for timing.
Yeah.
Kari sent a link in the chat. Race results come, and for timing they use this kind of system in their trail running competition, for example, and it can be modified for the run archery easily, Kari says. That's okay. From the chat.
Okay. So we will keep the link, and then to follow it in the email we will send to all the attendees.
Yes, and we still have the question from the very beginning from Adam from Ireland. who wanted to know something about the European champs or if there is a European series.
Yes. So before answering it, I will do, of course, and just to be, I just want to insist for people who want to try and to start a first trial competition of Run-Archery, use paper target faces. It's very the best way to do without put money in new equipment. You can use your usual equipment. Okay, for the competition at international level, at this time, it's mainly in Europe that we have competition, and we have the European Cup, which is, it will be for the third time, so second weekend of October in Novemesto, Czech Republic, so in David's sport club. And then this competition, of course, is the base of the ranking for the European Cup, but it is open to all countries. All people coming from all continents are welcome in Novemesto. They will be ranked race by race, so it will be awarded race by race, and at the end, the European archers will have the final ranking based on allocation of points for each race and accumulation of these points during the competition to have the final result of the European Cup. But someone from Americas, Asia, Africa, Oceania are really welcome in Novemesto to compete together. More we will be, more it will be good for the discipline to have more people coming. Next question, Betty.
Yes, we have from Andy from Austria. How does runner knows about liners? And if he has to run penalty loop or not, who tells the runner?
The spotter.
When using paper targets.
It is the same. The paper target face, or you use exactly the same report sheets. You give the same information in, out, on the number of penalty loops to run. It doesn't change. You use drop-down targets or you use paper target faces, because it happens with a drop-down target that sometimes they don't move as well as we suppose they will do. So anyway, they have to consider not what they have seen about the movement of the target, but what is announced by the spotter. That's why China has explained that the spotter duties and role is very, very important. So they have to follow what is said and written on the report by the spotter.
And then we have a question from Adam. Is the invitation package for Novemesto out on World Archery Europe website?
It will be, but not yet. Probably David may answer better than me about the invitation package for October.
Yes, thank you for this question. We waited for this webinar, and now we will start preparing or finishing the information package for the October European Cup. We will do it all together with Dominic and already with the World Archery to implement the open varios for registration for the first time. And I would like to use this occasion to invite everybody who is connected now to come to Novemesto in October, because it seems to be a great chance to have the spectacular and crowd competition.
Thank you. We have a comment from David Stephenhagen. He writes that they shoot 20 meters and 20 centimeters is the target face, and the rest is the same.
Yes.
And then we have a question of Kari. Have you thought of using a dull arrow with a lightweight, strong drop-down target face? No need to use form target.
What is, so sorry, my English is poor, so if there is an English teacher in the room, so dual arrow. Ah, dual, yes, yes, it is with a rubber as an arrowhead, yes.
I have no further comment on that in the chat. So, Kari, if you can raise your hand.
I think.
Now something came in. Something like
yes,
that.
Yes. Yes. Just my answer will be the same that I commented during the presentation. If you ask someone to get some new equipment only for trying Run-Archery, for example, we had regional competition here in my region 3 years ago. It was the first time we had 60 participants, but only 30 from clubs. So the one from clubs, and it was on usual buttresses with paper target faces. And then usual archers has come to try, and some enjoyed and continue, so some no, and 30 people. So the half of the participation was runners coming, so they got some initiation bow and arrows from the club to compete, and they had the 1 hour trial. So my suggestion is always to try to do the best. If you want to have people coming, if you ask them to have a specific equipment, 12 specific arrow or arrowheads to start, it may be more complicated to catch new people or archers coming with their own equipment. So, on my opinion, it's better to start with material, with equipments, targets, buttresses that can make easier people coming from their usual equipment. But of course, we are thinking about a lot of things. I know that in some countries they use so some plates and with some hemispheric arrowheads. So just to shoot and to push, and not to enter in the wood plate. Wood plate. That is a solution, but you need specific arrows for that. And in a development of the period of the discipline, it's much more better to do it as democratic as possible, and people coming with the usual archery equipment.
Thank you. And we have another question from Yadin. Is there a basic competition portfolio ready that we can build on?
So you can start, as I told you, you have some guidebooks on the World Archery Europe website, but probably we have to improve them. So we will work again on it to try to be more precise and to have more precision about how to set up the field.
At the moment, no more questions in the chat. Just thank you from Adam.
Oh, so for Great Britain, maybe I have to go in Great Britain for a technical visit. So maybe
well,
we
he's
can
from Ireland. Sorry.
Ireland. So
Adam
sorry,
from Ireland.
It is
Brilliant
Ireland.
work. Brilliant.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll try and go. Is his message.
And never hesitate. You have my email address, so never hesitate if you want more information. And of course, I know some of you are already registered for the next webinar. Is it you to do all format? No, I have seen the on these questions. No, the format of races, you can choose the one you do, so you are not obliged to do both. Of course, when you have the European Cup, we ask to have several because it is in the requirements of the European Cup. But at local level, you can choose to have only the sprint one. You can choose.
Yeah, we have the question from Andy. Is it usual to do all formats, 400,000 meter single mixed, in one weekend?
So we can do it, but David can maybe have a best answer than me, because I know that in the European Cup we have all of the formats, but with some health restriction about the time you need that the body recover well after the 4 kilometers. You need some times to recover before restarting a new race. David?
Yes, thank you for this specific question. As Dominic started already, when we have the Run-Archery competition well developed, then we will also have the specification by training and by individual racers. As in track and field athletics, there are no combination of runners for 200 meters or 400 meters and running 5 kilometers. So you wouldn't find in the international level any runner combining these two sprints and endurance running. The same in Run-Archery. If we have the competition and the whole environment of the Run-Archery developed enough, then we will also can afford racers specialized for their format, either sprints or endurance running. But so far it is in the beginning, and the racers they combine during one weekend all these most of the disciplines, the events, and we created or we organized it during 2 days only because of budget of the participants, because so far it is, as we repeat already in the beginning, and participants they mostly paid by themselves. So then we try to have the opening area, the opening ceremony, and team captains meeting, technical information Friday evening, and some short training Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and then we start the competition Saturday early morning till 4 or 5 p.m. and then again Sunday all day, which is quite demanding for one for each racer to run all 4 events, of course.
So another question from Andy, which fits perfectly to your comment now. As organizer, should it be better to do 1 or 2 days format? What can be done in 1 and what can be done in 2 days?
Well, it depends on if we combine, if everybody runs all the events, then it would have to be, I would suggest 1 day longer all the competition, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if it is specialized, that there will be teams with specialized sprinters or endurance runners, then it can be done in 2 days, because then there is a time to rest for and recover for endurance runners or sprinters, because they are not the same. But as I told,
as a base, we can answer to Andy that maybe to base on the European Cup program. Maybe it is a good first base, and as I remember in the guidebooks you have some guides, but once again, when you start the first competition to try to have someone, maybe it's not necessary to try to have all the format of races, but just as a starter, and of course to be careful of health of people, because archers are not so used to make athletics, most of them. So they want to try to do a lot of things, and maybe it's not very good if they don't have time to recover between each races.
Yeah, that's right. Especially for some categories by age, for our kids, for juniors, it wouldn't be allowed at all in world athletics rules to combine Saturday and Sunday all 4 events. In the former IAAF format, it is limited how many events and what distances can be run by runners under 20, under 18, under 15, and etc. But this is
and as example, in France, in the first rules we had in France, we had a combined race, which was 4 kilometers plus sprint, and we removed it from the rules, not to push people to organize it. So because it's responsibility also of the federation to put these kind of things in the rules, and if some clubs does it with not time for recovering of the body, it is a kind of responsibility to push it and to have it in the rules. So we have removed the combined possibility in our national rules.
I have a thank you from Andy to you.
Thank you, Andy. You're welcome.
Now comes a new question in. 1 moment, I have to open it. It's a long one. Have you estimated the cost of an event based on the numbers of participants and the spotters, judges, registration? An example maybe from Ricardo Volta.
So for the cost about equipment, one more time, if you don't go directly to drop down targets, no problem. You can use your own paper target faces. You do by yourself, so it's not a big matter. You use usual bird traces, and they will not be so much used because each archer will only shoot for each race maximum 12 arrows. So it's much less than during an outdoor event to use the form of your buttresses. Of course, if you are going to buy or to build some drop-down target faces, it is an investment. You have to be sure that you have enough people in the future event for this investment. For judges, I cannot answer because it depends of the use in each country. In France, it depends of the region about the cost for not accommodation, but for travel expenses for judges. Registration, of course, it will depend of each country. We cannot, and spotters, usually it is volunteers. Spotters and officials can be volunteers, so it depends if in each country if it is a use for them to have pocket money or things like that. In French, volunteers, it's for free. That is the principle in France. And judges, it will depend of your country. But you need 10 spotters if you have 10 arrows, or 1 for 10 targets. Sorry. It is the better to have, and you count the officials, and it can be 20 people except the judges to run the competition. So 20 people, and after it just your usual archery equipment. One more, I repeat, if you don't buy or build specific drop-down targets, you can use, and it is in the World Archery rules that if you want to follow World Archery rules, paper target faces are allowed in the rules. And if you have your own national rules, I really advise you to keep this possibility for all clubs to use paper target faces. But to answer exactly to the budget, of course, David will say can say a budget for the European Cup, because there are some continental judge appointed, a technical delegate appointed. They travel, these people, because they are not from Czech Republic. There are the athletic judges. There is a electronic timing system, and the requirement to have the drop-down target. So, of course, when you organize an international or national championship, it will depend on what is required by the governing body. So for World Archery Europe, 2 continental judges, 1 technical delegate, some national judges from athletics or archery, and 10 spotters and 4 officials. And all these people, you have to give them to eat during the day, and maybe travel expenses, accommodation. So.
Yeah, to sum it up, it was quite a lot of money comparing to the number of participants so far.
Yeah, yes.
So I don't know the exact I don't know the exact budget, but it's quite a lot of money. Well, we are proud of being part of the developing of the event, so it costs something.
But at a local level, clearly start with usual buttresses, paper target faces, and maybe not as an official competition first. Maybe to try to catch some judges who want to try, although to be judged on this new discipline. Make a first trial to know if people are interested by this discipline. So maybe it is not a big budget if you do it as local level. As I told you, there is a first trial of Run-Archery at the same time as ski archery 25 years ago, and we can ask Netherlands who are here. We can ask Janus for Estonia, and for France. I know some clubs tried with a little budgets first, and after, when it grows up, you can have more equipments, more specific equipments. But the first start, clearly, if you want to try, with not having a big budget, you can do it.
At the moment, no chat question.
Okay. So for us, we have seen all what we wanted to show you. So if you have other questions, so I repeat there is one. Yes, work in progress. I like progress. So well, one more time, so I have all your email address. So I promise you that as soon as we will have the invitation package for Novemesto, you will have it directly on your email address. No need to find it. You can have on the World Archery website the dates in the calendar, because you have the Run-Archery discipline when you are looking for competition in the calendar. So you have the exact dates. For World Archery Europe, we have decided that the European Cup will be every year the 2nd weekend of October. So all countries, even if they are not in Europe, are really welcome. So please, if you have some archers who are interested to start in this competition, please give them the information. Oh, do you have some promotional video? So for the video, to be clear and honest, as told David, it is 2 years ago we have the European Cup in Novemesto. I always try to be clear about all aspects. We have discussed about budget. So I have explained how many officials he has to pay travel, expenses, accommodation. We are so happy that Sport Club Novemesto is a good partner for para archery first and for run archery nowadays, because it is a big cost. And at this time, we need budget to make a good video promotionals on it, and we expect that we can have some budget for that this year in Novemesto to have good picture. So as soon as we can have video to promote this kind of competition, we will do it, but I don't want to do it by certain ways. It has to be clearly well done. Not only to promote it in our member association, but for some sponsor, for some partner, and for all you authorities. If you want to go to the Ministry of Sport to say, hey, Run-Archery exists in World Archery family, we want to be granted for that. We need to have good and nice support for that.
And we have a thanks from David Stevenshagen for the organization of this meeting, and he hopes to see you all at the championships.
Thank you, David. And of course, everybody is welcome in Novemesto in October. I'm already appointed as technical delegate, so we can continue the discussion there. I will be a little part present in the next webinar for judges. So if you have some judges who didn't register, and of course, each time, please tell everybody to go in the junk box to see if the email is going there. We have, okay. So Yona, thank you, Yona. And I was really happy to host some people coming from other continents from Europe. So I thank you one more time, World Archery Europe, to accept to open this webinar.
Okay, me too. Thank you for attending, and looking forward to see most of you in October in Novemesto.
And Chef hopes that some come to his country on May the 7th.
Okay.
And a lot of thank yous.
Thank you. So the recorded session will be online. You will see that with World Archery Europe, and of course I will send you the document in PDF. Maybe not the next few days, but at least at the end of next week. So thank you to the presenters, and mainly China and David, who has made a great job of preparation. It was a lot of meetings to try to be sure that the content will be the one you could expected. Don't hesitate to send me emails if you need more information, and maybe see you, for some of you, at the next webinar, which is more oriented for judges. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let's make this growing discipline a little bit spread.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.